Hi, in today's episode of Thinking is Infinite, we talk about pre-Christmas traditions, the future of the podcast, and we play a fun little game of Would You Rather, but it's with a little twist on what we usually do. And also there's a preview of what we're doing next episode, okay? Anyway, on to the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Thinking is Infinite podcast with Joe.
And John.
And today we're going to be talking about a variety of topics.
Yep,
let's start our podcast off, okay?
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about some topics today. Sorry for jumping over you there, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So some of the topics we'll talk about today are topical to what's going on right now. What is it today? Today we are in the first week of December, right?
December, and December is Christmas season, as everyone knows.
It certainly is. But before we get started with our first topic, Joe and I, when we do our pre-recording prep work, we talk about what we may want to talk about in future episodes, things like that.
Yep.
And what we always do, and we did yesterday, was talk a little bit about the news, right, Joe? And what are the things that we said about the news?
It's mainly depressing stuff.
All depressing, right? But you know what? I did see a news story today that before we get started, I do want to talk about because it made me kind of laugh.
Okay.
Do you remember did you ever hear of this actor named Jussie Smollett or something like that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to tell you the story, Joe. Joe may not know the story. Some of you guys out there may know the story. So, about 2 years ago, this actor who was in a pretty decent show, apparently I think it was on Fox or something like that. It was called Empire or something, Joe. So, he tells the cops that he was mugged by two Trump supporters in Chicago.
Okay.
Right? So now, as the story peeled out, I remember when I heard this, I said, wow, Chicago is not really the area where there's going to be Trump supporters because Chicago's just not a city that would be Trump supporters, right? So I'm thinking about this. Now, my job, just so people that don't know me personally, my job is I do a lot of investigations in my field. So, and it's in claims. So, when someone presents a claim, I kind of look at it and try to see, is this real or is it not? That's the first part of my job, Joe. Did you know that at all about my job?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so one of the things that I started to look at is the facts of the case. Now, Joe, this happened like in the dead of winter, okay? After midnight. The guy says he was going to get a Subway sandwich in the middle of the night, right? In Chicago.
Get the Subway craving,
so
I guess. Right
there is a flag. I'm not sure how many Subways are open 24/7. Maybe they are in Chicago, but I just didn't.
I think they might be, but I don't know.
Red flag number one.
24/7.
You have an actor. What actor is going to run out for Subway in the middle of the night? But that was a red flag number one. Red flag number two, Joe. It was like 3 degrees that day in Chicago. So if you're out there as a Trump supporter wearing a MAGA hat, are you really going to be looking to mug someone at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m.? It just didn't make sense to me. So that part didn't make sense to me. And then he tells the story how they mugged him and then poured bleach on him and threw a rope on him and then sent him on his way. So now this caused a major news story for about 3 or 4 days in the news. And the reason why it's in my head and the reason why it's topical is I heard that they're just having the trial now because he got caught. He made up the whole story, Joe. The moral of the story, he made up the whole story. So
I don't know how you even come up with an elaborate story like that. And also, like, why would you, call the police? If you're going to make up a story, just tell the media. They'll spin it for you however they want. It doesn't really make much sense. Why would you go to the cops? If you do that, you're just going to get in trouble.
And now he's in trouble. He's in trouble for doing a false report. And that's what's going on right now. That there's a trial on right now. And it just made me laugh because all I kept thinking is, how many Trump supporters are sitting in Chicago in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. And what he actually did, Joe, it even gets funnier. He paid his personal trainers, to pretend to mug him because he saw a camera in the street and he wanted to make it look authentic. Crazy story. But it's not the first time this has happened, Joe. There was once when I was a kid, and it just reminded me of it. when I was driving over to pick up Joe to start this podcast, there was a story that happened in the 80s, in the mid to late 80s, or maybe it was early 90s. It was a long time ago, and there was this talk show host, Joe. His name was Morton Downey Jr. That's what his name was.
Weird name.
So his career wasn't going all that well, and all of a sudden a story comes out that he was beat up in a bathroom, and the guys who beat him up drew a swastika on his head.
Ooh.
Sounds really bizarre, right?
Yeah, that does.
Now, if you beat someone up, now you're going to draw a swastika on someone's head after you beat them up? It just seemed very bizarre, right? Well, the cops also thought it was very bizarre. And this is what it reminded me of, because I'm like, I can't believe it happened again about 20-some-odd years later, where a celebrity made up a story like this. As it turns out, Joe, when they did an investigation, the swastika on the guy's forehead was written backwards. So apparently he looked in the mirror and put it on his own head and got busted. So the moral of the story, Joe, don't make up any stories that you can't back up. Be honest with people. And I just thought it was really funny. So I'm sorry for getting way off track in the beginning of our podcast, because we wanted to talk about Christmas, and Joe's looking at me eye rolling like crazy. Not really eye rolling, but he's looking at me like, let's move on with this. All right, now to our normal podcast segment. The first segment that we usually do, right, Joe, is when we talk about special needs, right?
Yep.
And Joe, and we are now at episode 11, and we've pretty much previewed it on every episode that we've had, that Joe has special needs, and he's on the autism spectrum, but he's extraordinarily high functioning. And one of the reasons why we do this podcast is to talk about Joe's experiences, but also try to help a family that may have a young child with autism, and help them have a strategy and give them hope, and also just kind of tell Joe's perspective, right, Joe?
Yep.
So one of the things that I think back to when you were a little Joe, and there was so little information about autism out there, even though it was common, and it always upset me that there was nothing out there for me to read, to look at, and I wish there was and what I'm trying to do right now and trying to say is, I'm glad that we're doing this. I wish there was something like this that I could have listened to back then. So we always try to inform, and we always try to at least dedicate
make people aware of the spectrum and the challenges and the pros that come with it,
and the challenges and how to overcome them, or stories about how Joe has overcome them. So right now we're sitting in week 1 of December, right, Joe?
Yeah, we are.
And a lot of times, and this is the season, obviously, the Christmas, the Hanukkah season, the holiday season, New Year's. So we have a lot of things coming up. And what we decided to talk about today was some of the, not necessarily Christmas, but the pre-Christmas, right, activities.
The stuff that you do before Christmas comes.
Yes. So one of the things we'd like to talk about is some of Joe's experiences, and maybe this can serve as helpful to someone out there that has a child on the spectrum, right, Joe?
Yeah, that can definitely help them.
So, Joe, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the things you like to do around Christmas time, and some of the things you may not like to do on Christmas time that you may have tried that didn't go so well?
Okay. Well, some of the things I like to do around Christmas time, I like to kind of look at certain gifts, gift ideas, obviously online. I also like to go to the Christmas tree at Rockefeller now, but I didn't used to. When I was little, we used to. I still do go to the RXR tree. But now I go to we go to Rockefeller. Usually we would go to Rockefeller. I don't know if we're doing it this year or not.
Well, this is also pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah, pre-pandemic. We would go to We go to, like, see the trees and things.
Now, some of the things that Joe may have, as far as seeing the tree, and it's interesting you said the RXR Plaza, because that's something that I've always done with you guys, and there are certain challenges when you have someone with special needs, and the reason why I chose a smaller place, so if anyone who's listening to this and doesn't understand what RXR Plaza is, it's we live on Long Island,
yeah.
and that is probably one of the biggest trees, I guess, on Long Island, that they do a Christmas tree lighting, and they have a nice indoor atrium, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah, it's not as big as Rockefeller, but it's still pretty cool to see. I kind of like that. There was like an old ice skating rink there, but they got rid of that completely, I think. I don't know why they did. I thought it looked a bit like, I don't know why they got rid of that, but
it could certainly be used. But so one of the reasons why I chose that area is because I wasn't sure when you were a little kid how you would handle going to Rockefeller Center. And I'm glad that you've progressed and you've gone to Rockefeller Center, right? So tell me a little bit about that experience of going to Rockefeller Center, some of the things that you liked, some of the things you didn't like.
Well, the first time I went was, like, when I was, I think, like, 10 or 11. It wasn't until then when I was finally comfortable going to Rockefeller Center. Now, what we did first, we went to the Empire State Building. We actually went on 3 floors. We went on, I think, like, the 80th floor, the 96th floor or something, and the 101st floor. So, like, the very top floor, except for, like, I think there's another floor even on top of that, but that's, like, for celebrities, I think. But we went to, like, the top 4 that, regular people could do, and then we...
Now, how is it, I know sometimes you've struggled with, like, crowds and close and maybe
close
tight quarters.
Yeah.
How is it going into an elevator that high?
Well, it was kind of like I didn't really feel too stressed about it. At that point, I'd already kind of overcome that, so I was pretty much able to go up in that elevator and pretty much feel fine.
What do you think the younger Joe would have felt? Maybe
probably pretty
5
stressed.
or 6 or 7-year-old
Probably
Joe.
pretty stressed, probably very nervous about doing it, wanting to leave. That's what many kids struggle with. They struggle with autism. A lot of them struggle with being in crowds or crowded spaces. Like I said, not everyone with autism is the same. Some people struggle with their own things that other people with autism don't struggle with at all. Some people with autism have their own ways of overcoming these challenges. But for me, I'd overcome this by the time, like I said, by the time I went there.
Some maturity.
It was already over. I already overcame that challenge.
So do you think it would have been a totally different experience had you been a little bit younger?
Yeah, I think so, because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until that point when I had overcome that challenge. That challenge would have been unbearable at that age. At a younger age, it would have definitely been.
Now, how was the rest of the experience, like seeing the tree? Did you feel, even as a older kid, and now you're turning into close to the teenager, now you are a teenager, but I think the last time you went, you were a few years ago,
10 or 11, yeah.
11 years old. So, when you went through that, what were the toughest parts of that trip as far as the sensory, and was there any parts that you felt that was, okay, this is a little bit too much?
Well,
or more than you expected?
Well, most of it was actually smooth sailing. We went to like Hard Rock Cafe, which is like a restaurant in New York City. We went to M&M World, the little place over there. We also kind of just explored Times Square, and then eventually we got to the tree. Now, after the tree is where things got a bit stressful for me and for and also for the rest of my family too, because on our way back from the tree, I think this was actually the second time we went, or like the third time we went when that happened. The first and the second times were completely smooth sailing. The third time had a bit of rough edges, where we went back and we encountered a huge crowd of people, and no one was moving. It was just this huge crowd. it was like everyone was like cramped together. And I'm like, that's not like, I'm not saying like, oh, well, the streets in New York City are always crowded. Well, yeah, but this was different. It was like everyone had like 2 centimeters of space of their own, and that was it.
So it was
it
next
was
level
very
crowd.
like like that kind of like large crowd. And it was like there was like a light thing on Saks Fifth Avenue or something. So then everyone was summoning to see the lights, and I think something else was going on, though I can't quite remember what it was. Anyway, we got stuck in this crowd, and then we had to eventually break out of it and eventually get to another, like, a shortcut to a rail stop where we could go off. But it was also kind of stressed out because I thought that the subway wouldn't take us where we needed to go, but it did, so...
Yeah, so that's interesting you're saying that, Joe, because that is something that has happened to you a few times in your life. I'm sure I remember and I'm sure with your mom too, that there are certain experiences where you think everything's smooth sailing and then all of a sudden something changes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something you've been able to overcome, but in the past that was something that was a very big challenge.
Yeah.
Now, parents, many times if you're a parent of a child with special needs, sometimes you don't even want to take that chance. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I used to do when going some places with you is to either avoid places like that or avoid the big crowds and try to take you places on when it's quiet. Now, unfortunately, I know, at least on Long Island, I'm sure a lot of other places, if anyone's listening somewhere else, there are so many different, there's only there's things that are popular and traditional things to do during the holidays. So usually there's crowds there. So Joe, if you can offer any advice to maybe a parent about taking a younger child to a crowded area, what piece of advice can you give them?
Well, that's a bit difficult to say. If you're going to a crowded area, you have to make sure that they're either calm or make sure that they have proper techniques in place to ensure that they have the capability to relieve some of that stress. And I feel like the best advice is to avoid that until they're older and can handle it. And the best way to know that is to occasionally take them into crowds every once in a while, see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, don't do it again, and for like another 2-3 years or so, like every certain amount of time you could take them into like a crowd situation or something that might go against them. You have to kind of see when they're going to eventually adapt. Like I said, it's not perfect for every kid. Some kids really struggle with crowds and might get overwhelmed super easily, so this might not be good advice for them. And in that case, just kind of try to avoid all crowded instances in those cases. Like I said, every kid with autism is different, so you have to kind of tailor to their needs.
And you know what? There's other things that you can do if crowds are really a problem. Most times, especially on social media, you can find in your local area what houses are decorated really well. Over here on Long Island, there's a festival of lights where you could drive through,
right?
The
show,
holiday
and
light
actually
show.
that actually is, I think there's some across the country. I don't know where they are, but I think there are others.
So those are some good places because you're driving in your car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
you're not
have
getting
control.
out of your car, and also and the child is with people that they trust. You know what I mean?
And they're familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are pretty good ideas around the holidays if the child really struggles with crowds. Also, and this is something we've talked about in previous podcasts, right, Joe? Is planning and letting the child know what's the beginning of the time, when you're starting, when you plan on going home, and what the experience is going to be like, right?
Planning can make it easier, yes. Like I said, that might not work for everyone because some children might still struggle with that a bit, but a lot more. But with planning can definitely help ease the anxiety.
What about a goal to the end of it? Like, okay, let's just say, I know you, Joe. Joe loves chicken, fried chicken, chicken nuggets, chicken fingers, and all that stuff, right? So what if someone gave you a goal and said, okay, after we're done, you're gonna get XYZ? Would that be something that would have helped you back then, or is it not even relevant? Like, no, if I'm struggling, I don't even want. There's no ice cream sundae that's big enough to help me.
Well, it really depends. There are some kids who will, go for that kind of reward, but in other cases, it's too severe for that. So, like I said, it really depends on this all really depends on is how much the child is struggling with that. Because like I've said repeatedly, it's kind of like a spectrum. Some kids struggle with it a lot more than others. So if a kid is struggling with it a lot more, they might not be able to essentially do that.
So now, so do you have any plans so far for this holiday season, or is it going to be kind of a laying low? What do you have plans?
Well, I know that we're planning a brunch.
Okay,
and we're doing that on Saturday. We're doing it at I can't really remember where. What was the place? Damn it, I forgot. Okay.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So brunches can be very busy too. So
yeah. I think we're probably going to the Holiday Light Show too. But yeah, those are our main plans right now. We don't really have too many, but we do.
Well,
have
definitely COVID has definitely changed a lot of people's plans around the holiday season, because now I think about it all the time too. It's like, okay, where am I going? Is there going to be a lot of crowd here? Is this going to be a mask event? Is this going to be not a mask event? Can it be indoors? Am I being outdoors? I feel safer outdoors rather than indoors. And this COVID has certainly changed things when it comes to the holiday season, changing things for everything. Now, when you've been wearing a mask, how has that impacted you? Is it something that's very frustrating to you? Is it something that you're able to handle? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Pretty much handle it. Like, it's uncomfortable that I can handle wearing a mask. You know what I mean? Like I said, other kids might be different, but for me, I can pretty much handle wearing a mask. I wear it a lot in school. I usually don't take mask breaks unless I'm drinking water, because in that case, or eating, because in those cases, you have to take down your mask. You can't drink water or eat with a mask on. It's pretty difficult. My brother's friend actually tried to do that. But other than that, no, I haven't really been taking it off, and it's pretty fine.
I often wonder how you would have reacted as a younger child, a 5-6-year-old, if you had to wear a mask. I'm glad that you're at your age right now when you had to do it, because it seems like it's not such a big deal. But I couldn't imagine trying to get a younger child who is struggling with sensory issues to now put this thing on their face.
That also happens to be pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even for me, it's still kind of uncomfortable, even if it's not necessarily bad. And like I said, it covers your face, so they're probably afraid that it'll suffocate you, even though it won't. It's just, you can breathe through it. It has those little holes. But still, it's something that it might be more difficult.
All right, so to tie this one up in a little bow, right? Like we said last week, is be aware where you're going. I guess set the expectation, right, Joe?
But set the expectation appropriately for the
event.
For the event, yeah.
And I guess try to avoid crowds if you can. Try to go on an off night or off hours or something like that. And just plan, prepare, and be ready for any changes, right? Anything can change. So, it is difficult, and my heart goes out to every parent that has a special needs, especially a young child, because I know how difficult it can be when you're trying to navigate this, and you're just trying to have a good time, but you also want your child to have a good time too, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to balance those needs too.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it for this segment.
That goes out for our first segment, and we thank you, and some of the other topics we're going to be talking about over the next little while. We're going to play a little game on the next segment. And we're going to talk about some holiday things. So this month, Joe, we usually broadcast once a week, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have a good 2 to 3 episodes of discussing the holiday season and things like that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So off to the next segment.
Okay, let's do it. Hey, welcome to the next segment, and this segment we're going to be playing a game of Would You Rather, right?
Yeah, we're going to do a Would You Rather, and I'm going to pose some questions to Joseph, and I'm going to try to guess what he would rather do. In the previous segment podcast, we've talked about the Would You Rather Not, right, Joe? Mm-hmm. And we talked about 2 very difficult things, and Joe had to pick out which is the worst of the 2, and I had a little card showing the number, and we did it that way. So this game's going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to throw some topics out at Joe, and I want to see how he reacts, and I'm going to see if I can guess what he thinks.
Okay.
All right, so let's do the first one now. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 into the future? So 10 minutes into the future. We could discuss this before you decide which one. So, all right, I'm going to discuss it with you. 10 minutes into the future can be
it's
pretty
like
cool.
Yeah, I can.
Because everything you do, you'll know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. But also, if you see a long time into the future, that's also pretty cool.
Now, because you're seeing what's happening in the year, but you're gone by then.
Yeah, that too. You're also dead, so.
So now I'm going to give you one negative side of the 10 minutes into the future. Mm-hmm. What if you're watching a sports game?
Then
nothing's ever a surprise. You know what's going to happen.
True.
And your whole life, you're always 10 minutes into the future.
Or more like, if we're watching a movie too.
You know the ending before it ends. Now, or that could be very helpful when you're gambling. If you're playing roulette, that little ball spins. Yeah. You'll know where it lands, right?
Yeah.
But 150 years in the future, I guess you'll learn what happened in the whole entire world, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna take this guess, Joe. Do you have a thought? Do you have one that you're leaning towards?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna guess that you would rather see 10 minutes into the future.
You're wrong.
Okay, now tell me why 150 years is more
because I feel like if I saw 150 years into the future, it'd be pretty cool. Like, you'd get to see, all the cool technology, some of, the stuff that we might come up with 150 years from now. Maybe, even, aliens will start landing on the planet. I feel like it'd be cool just to go and see what it'd be like.
Joe, that's really interesting. I was thinking about making money. About going to a casino and robbing the casino. Not robbing the casino, but winning at the casino. But I like your thoughts. Now I understand what you're saying now. Okay. Yeah. So I am 0 for 1. And as you can see, Joe has this thing. He's just brutally honest. He'll never give me a win just for the sake of giving me a win, right? You just aren't. Okay. Next one. Mm-hmm. Would you rather be 11 feet tall or 9 inches tall?
Pros and cons to both of those two.
Pros and cons. All right, the pro of being 11 feet tall.
You can reach really high. Con, you now can't fit into most places.
Yeah, you can't fit in the door.
Mm-hmm. 9 inches tall. Pro, you can kind of walk around. You're very short, so you're not a lot of weight. It's easier to go up or down. Con, you can't reach anything.
9 inches tall. Oh my God! Now,
did you know that
you know how exhausted
tallest?
You'd be?
No, but the tallest person in the world was actually around 11 feet tall when he died. So. Tallest man in the world was actually around 11 feet tall when he died. When he was measured, he was, by the Guinness World Records, he was 9'11". He continued growing until he was 10'9".
Wow.
And that's when he died. when he was that height. So he did kind of almost reach 11 feet tall.
Now, 9 inches is really
Sure.
small.
Yeah.
Imagine how tired you'd be if you're walking with your family and they're all regular height and you're running just to, right?
To kind of keep up, I guess
And
you
I'd
could
be
say.
worried that someone would step on me.
True. I mean, if you're that small, like, yeah. But I also don't know if I'd want to be...
Either one of them, very inconvenient.
Both of them are bad.
Now, I guess I'm going to guess right now, right?
Okay, I'm leaning on something.
Okay, you got a decision? Okay. I think you would rather be 11 feet tall than 9 inches tall.
Correct.
Yes. All right. Now, why?
Because I feel like if I'm 9 inches tall, A, someone probably will step on me, and just my luck. And B, I feel like I wouldn't be able to be as athletic, so I feel like I'd rather be 11 feet tall, and, like, you know, you can also get things, like, delivered on stuff. You can also, like, run in order to keep yourself more athletic. It's just better off, I feel like, than being 9 inches tall, though both are pretty bad.
Yeah, both of them, and I was thinking that maybe I would pick out things that are a little bit more fun, but I'm like, oh my god, that neither one of them really sounds very good. All right, now the last one. Would you rather spend a week in the forest
Okay.
or a night in a real haunted house? Now, talk to me about the pros and
real
cons
haunted
of
house.
now living in the forest for a week.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you have to sleep on the floor. You're just
No, you're
living
just
in the
living
forest.
in the
so
forest,
let's
Assume
play
that
this
you're
out.
going
in a
camping,
tent.
okay?
It's like going camping, right?
Yeah.
For a week.
You're, you know, if you have a tent, you have shelter and things. Con, you're also, you don't have electricity or phone signal. Pro, you don't get to be frightened all the time. And con, you kind of have to like, pro, you don't have to live in the wilderness, but you also, might be scared if you're in the haunted house. If you're in the haunted house, you don't have to live in the wilderness, but you're also scared. If you're in the rainforest, you do have to live in the wilderness, but you're at least not being frightened all the time. This one's kind of difficult.
I know what I would rather do, and this will not have any bearing on Joe's decision because Joe makes his own decisions.
Okay.
All right. My
Good.
personal opinion: I'd rather spend the night in a haunted house because it's one night. It is haunted. Most likely you're going to be okay. It'd be freaky and scary, and you'd have a story to tell the rest of your life. That I spent the night in a real haunted house that was really, really haunted. All right, Joe. I'm going to guess that you would do the same.
You are wrong.
Oh, okay. All right, tell me, why would you rather do the week in the forest?
Because, first of all, it doesn't say that you don't have to have any supplies with you, so you can still have, like, food, kind of like, you have, like, a tent, you have shelter. In a haunted house, the thing is, you're in a real haunted house, meaning that you're really surrounded by demons and hell spirits that probably will kill you, and will probably send you to some place not very good. So, yeah,
Okay. I respect that. I got 1 out of the 3 right now. Let's do one bonus one, okay?
Okay.
And this is not for a contest. This is just for you and I to discuss, okay?
Okay.
Would you rather have a mullet for a year or be bald with no wigs for 6 months? Do you know what a mullet is, Joe? Mullet is a popular hairdo.
I've heard of mullets.
It's what do they call that?
I think I'd
business in
rather
the
be
front,
bald.
party in the back.
I think I'd rather be bald.
rather be bald than wear a mullet, huh?
Yeah,
Because it's only 6 months too.
bad. Yeah, mullets are really bad.
You know what?
At least if I'm bald, I look like one of those like old coaches that lose all their hair, or like older coaches. They how people like men lose their hair very quickly. At least I look like a gym coach or something.
A gym coach. Well, you know what? I think if I had to choose, I probably would. See, I'm not sure. I'm torn because I think wearing a mullet people be laughing at you all the time. And bald is kind of like, okay, there's bald. A lot of men, when they lose their hair, they go bald. They shave their hair bald and let them have bald look, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they grow a goatee and they look cool and they look like a biker and they're tough, right?
Yeah.
So
sort of.
that's the good side of being bald. Now, the rougher side for me, Joe, is I have this scar on the side of my head that, if anyone has seen The Empire Strikes Back, the movie not Empire Strikes Back, was it The Return of the Jedi? Whenever they took Darth Vader's helmet off, that would be what I'm look like when I'm bald. That huge scar on the side of my head. So I'd have to have a very visible scar that I got when I was 6 years old, and they didn't really do plastic surgery back then. They just sewed me up and let my afro do its thing and cover it. So I'm not so sure what I would do. And thankfully I'm blessed that I still have my hair right now, and like, believe me, I'm really super blessed because I don't know how I would handle this scar on the side of my head.
Well, it wouldn't be that bad. It would just be a scar. It wouldn't really hurt, but yeah.
No, it wouldn't hurt, but it'd be very, I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure what I would do, Joe.
Yeah.
I think I may be okay with a bald for 6 months.
Yeah.
Then a mullet. See how unpopular the mullet is?
Yeah.
that Joe, a 15-year-old, would rather be and look like a gym teacher.
Yeah, but I think gym teachers look kind of cool, okay?
They do, and I hope your gym teacher never, if they listen to it, at least they'll know they look cool, right?
Yeah.
well, that was our Would You Rather segment, and we learned definitely something about Joseph.
Okay.
Take care.
Yep. Hey, welcome to the IRL segment of...
we are in the Jeep Cherokee studio, and we're wrapping up our 11th episode, Joe. And Joe, what'd you think? What do you think of this whole journey of these 11 episodes?
I think this has been a pretty good... it's been pretty cool. I feel like just kind of expressing my side of things to an audience. It's also been kind of cool, going out, We go out, we record, we plan all our stuff, kind of like, being kind of part of this type of podcast. I feel like it is a good way for me to express my personal challenges, my struggles, some of
some
my, so I have some fun,
And some positivity, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Some of the things we wanted to do for future episodes. So next week's episode, one of the things that we want to talk about is our least favorite holiday songs, right?
Yeah.
So anyone who's listening to this right now, think of some of your least favorite songs, and maybe on the next episode you'll
put it on our Facebook page. We have Thinking is Infinite. Just search that up, you'll find it.
Nice plug, Joe.
You can put put any bad holiday song, put it on our Facebook page. We want to see it.
So yeah, we want to know what your worst holiday songs. I have definitely 3, and people who know me know the definite my number 1, and I will definitely share that with you. So Joe, think of some of the 3 holiday songs that you do not like.
Okay.
That the ones when they come on, you're like, and you have to survive this song or change the station immediately. So that's one of the things we want to talk about in our next episode. And, it has been fun, Joe. I'm glad you're enjoying this, because I am. Right now...
Yeah, me too, actually. I've been, just having a lot of, a good time with this.
And I hope it comes out, and I hope you guys can hear the fun way that we are having on this show, because it really has been a really fun experience. One of the things that, we're very thankful for everyone here, everyone that's been listening, and keep sharing it. If you're having fun and enjoying this, share it with someone, and definitely do comment and like. If you're listening to this on an Apple podcast, there is a button where you can actually rate and comment. Right, Joe?
Yeah, there is. Apple Podcasts does have that. I think Spotify... I don't know if Spotify does or Google Podcasts, so I know Apple does. So, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just be sure to give us a rating and leave us, a little comment. It really does help boost our podcast and, kind of let it grow.
And you know what? Anytime it's boosted a little bit and someone else can hear it, and then someone else can like it, and someone else can share it, I mean, it's beneficial to everyone, and we really hope, and what we what we envisioned, Joe, when we first started this, it's really happening, and it's really fun to know.
Yeah, it is. It's really just been an amazing time. Anyways,
we're gonna try to do it on Saturdays.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do it on Saturdays.
But life hits sometimes. Yeah. This isn't our job. Joe has school. I have a job. We try to do this. We
try to work around things, and we try to schedule certain things coming up. I will probably be uploading this on Saturday, even though the day I'm recording this is actually a Thursday, but I'm probably going to be uploading this on Saturday.
You're revealing things, Joe. They're not supposed to know that stuff.
Yeah, whatever. Well, it makes it more authentic. Come on.
Yeah, and that's what we are. I guess I think we're pretty authentic, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for enjoying this episode with us, and we will see you and hear you, and you'll hear us next week.
Bye.
And that concludes our podcast for this evening. Be sure to give us a follow. We'll be posting on Saturdays from now on, or at least we'll try to. And yeah, that's it. Bye.